policies I want to dismiss right offhand. Just because someone works in the theater doesn't mean they want to be front and center. I work backstage where nobody can see me in the dark. So let's get that out of hand first. And Fox is not my normal source of information, but they did a really neat segment about when Frozen came, so.
But it is given us an opportunity to go backstage and take a look at the technology that is certainly a showstopper, bringing spin to life, making Frozen sparkle. It's high-tech magic that seems to freeze what appears to be a wooden proscenium, transforming UT's vast concert hall into a faraway land called Arendelle. This massive footbridge, which provides the setting for the song What Do You Know About Love, was modified for the national tour. Steel, foam, and acrylic, creating the illusion of ice and snow for a structure that comes in 3 parts.
It has to be mobile, it has to fit in a semi.
Aaron Heater, a theater tech known as a crew swing, took us backstage. It's no small task to take a popular animated Disney movie and make it come to life on the stage. This challenging set design involves more than creative choreography.
We're the largest show out on Broadway right now. We have about 20,000 pounds of moving scenery, and we hang an additional 80,000 pounds from the ceiling.
We started preparing for this show a year ago.
Jim Lorcan is technical director at Bass Concert Hall. He told me a site survey was done to determine if the show would even fit the big stage on UT's 40 acres. It's a Texas-sized national tour. Frozen the Broadway musical fills 19 trucks.
This show, once the tour arrived, we had calls of up to 70 individuals helping put the show onto the stage and into the theater.
What kind of skills are we talking?
Everything from technical rigging to lighting and audio and wardrobe. The show like this will use 14 wardrobe hands just to daily put the show on.
So when we go from city to city, we can't do it ourselves. So we roughly, 80, union stagehands are with us, skilled guys that we could say, here's the task at hand. We have 32 hours, 2 16-hour days, let's do this. My theater was an analog beginning, and now it's like a digital adulthood. And I think this is what everyone will be doing.
Virtual snowstorms on stage are projections from a collection of 34 4K TVs.
It's been kind of pre-wired for us for easy travel. So our electrics department puts this together actually in 16 pieces.
The visual effects travel through more than 5 miles of cable, powering LED lights, providing the magic, which makes a rocky cliff transparent. But the showstopper involves the character Elsa.
The end of Act 1 is without a doubt one of the best moments in theater, I think.
In the movie, Elsa magically transforms her dress with a wave of her hand. Stage magic involves a blending of old and new tech.
But there's a moment when everyone backstage, there's 6 folks on the fly rail, there's deck carpenters, there's electricians, there's prop people, there's costume people. We are all focused on this one moment and this last song of Act 1 that really is a crowd pleaser.
The performances backstage may not be as dazzling as what happens in front of an audience, but the jobs, according to Lorcan, are solid careers.
In fact, you might find women working backstage than in the spotlight.
You still have time to catch all the magic. Frozen's run ends on the 16th at UT's Bass Concert Hall. I'm Rikowski, Fox 7 Austin News.
Well, that's kind of a nice little intro to what I do. That was the tour of Frozen. I was one of the local stagehands. So part of it is, okay, why, here we go. Part of why do I have any reason to talk about theater? My experience, I got my BFA here in Austin at UT. I worked for 7.5 years with the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater. By the time I left there, I was the senior wardrobe assistant. We traveled about 6 months out of the year. We did international tours, we did national touring, we had a 5-week sit down in New York City, and they did new ballets every year. So I had a little bit of a hand in things that were built for our dancers, keeping those repaired, keeping shoes in stock, painting shoes, repairing things, installing the washing machine. Yeah, all those different things go into it. There's one photo floating around. It's a really neat theater shot, and it was in Palermo. It was outdoors in the summer in Italy. Well, Palermo's an island off the coast of, is it Palermo, Italy? Whatever. But basically, think of how humid Austin is. Great. Now try and move really quickly on the floor that has a sheen of water on it. Yeah, our dancers had a hard time with it, so we were doing what we could to make their feet stick where it needed to stick and move when they needed to move, and it was a whole other level of adjust. So the biggest thing that I have to do is be flexible. Since I left Ailey, I came back to Austin. Now I work mainly for Stage Alliance, which does the hiring for Bass Concert Halls, so the Broadway across America that you see the commercials for. There's an 85% chance or better that I will probably be working that and be backstage. So if you see me dressed as so, chances are I'm working that day. Stagehands generally wear what we call stage blacks. We don't wear shorts, mini skirts, because then you have big old day glow legs. Yeah. There are some shows that require long sleeve shirts because you can be seen, and they don't want your big old day glow arms to be showing in what we call the wings. We'll go into that in a bit. I also work for Ballet Austin, and I also work for Austin Opera. All three of these are their own beast. It's the same basic job, but the approach has to be different, which is a challenge. Again, the biggest thing I have to do is be flexible. So, okay, well, that's not gonna work in this situation. Great, how can we make it? How can we make things happen?
So you're a problem solver.
Very often a problem solver. As my mother said the first time she saw me at my first professional gig away from school, oh great, 5 years of college so you could do laundry and cobble shoes. And a lot of times, that is a lot of what I'm doing. Laundry is a huge part of what I do. I do not build the costumes. That is not my gig. Occasionally I have done work in a costume shop that did some building, but 90% of what I do has nothing to do with building things. And we don't say constructing or sewing garments, we say building, because you need to build a structure that can stand up to the abuse. I'm not talking a nice blouse that you're gonna wear for one evening. I'm talking about a shirt that has to go on stage, do whatever it's gonna do. Great, now do that 8 times a week for however many weeks it's gotta go. And be washed in between.
So it's gotta be sturdy.
It's gotta be sturdy, so we call it construction. You are constructing garments. You are building costumes, just like you build sets and build props. Theater basics, there's some lingo that I am probably gonna use, and I thought let's introduce it before I use it, and you all go, what did she say? That makes no sense. So, basically, pretend I am the stage, you guys are what we would call the house. There are 4 main areas of a theater. The stage, the house, front of house, meaning ticket takers, concessions, merchandise, that stuff, and either back of house or backstage. These are the 4 main areas. So when they're talking about stage directions, it is from the actor's perspective looking out. So if something is to the left, is not your left, is my left. So it's stage, and they'll say stage left or stage right.
Pass that to Diane.
There's also the term upstage and downstage. That comes from old operas when they would use a slanted or a raked stage. And quite literally, what was behind me was literally higher than me. So it literally was up the stage or down because it's slanted down. Not many theaters are like that, but you do still find them in some of the older European cities. Our dancers really loved that. Another thing, so, and you can say, you will hear in some places, they will talk about house right and house left. For Lion King, not the most recent time it came, but these many years ago, I had to set up hyena legs. I worked stage right, but I was doing it house left. That meant I was staying on the same side of the building. So, house means it's from your perspective. So for a stage, a lot of times what's off stage in the edge are gonna be what look like curtains. We call them legs. And between each leg, those are helping you not see all the stuff going on backstage. Trust me, that's a whole other show. Most people are not ready for. So what's in between those legs is what's called a wing. So when I show you my notes, you'll see a lot of it says SRW1, stage right, wing 1. And normally they number them from down to up, but not always. So you always have to ask and be flexible. Because if you just, I know all the things. No, you don't, because it ain't your show. It is their show. So these are just some shots I have. I have some photos passing around that's from before we used cell phones for everything. These are shots I had on my cell phone. This was from a magic show that we did. We didn't really do things in the wings because that's where the magicians did their thing. So we had certain garments we had to hold, and we spent so much time in the area waiting for the 3 things they actually needed us for. We made our own little living room, basically. And we had some leftover boxes, and one of the props guys decided that we needed a fireplace. And I brought in a couple of dog and cat, and we're like, it's a 3-dog night. Theater, the one thing I will say that you can generally say about most theater people, you have to have a sense of humor. We are goofy people. And if they're not, they don't generally last long. Because if you can't laugh at a completely ridiculous situation, you'll lose your mind. And I have been in some ridiculous situations. We did a performance on a golf course. I hooked our washing machine up to a spigot. And it drained in the grass. What can you do at that point? You can get upset and be angry, or you can laugh at it and go, whoo, this is gonna make a good story later down the line. And that's what you have to do. This was during Aladdin recently. I can only tell because I recognize the shoes. This was my shoe painting table. A lot of times, and I'll go into more about that. Let's go to the next one. A lot of times, one of the jobs that I do is working with shoes a lot. In some places, they don't.
There we are.
Go back to where we were.
She doesn't want you to see it.
No, there we go. I'm gonna go in order, but I babble, so she's keeping me on track. Basically, there's a lot of different theater that you'll see. You will see local theater, You will see regional. Zach Scott is probably what we might call a regional theater. It's still very local. All the people that work there are local. It is semi-professional. They use a lot of young people. The big Broadway shows, they're like, oh, they're on Broadway. Well, Broadway is one. But a lot of those really big shows, especially like Aladdin and Wicked and those really huge ones, the Broadway is not the only company doing that show. Sure, you've got the New York company, which is on Broadway, but then you'll probably also have another company in Chicago, another company in LA. There might be a company in Tokyo, and another one in Paris. It depends on how far that show has reached. Then you'll also have companies that are touring. Hamilton had at least 2 companies touring, and I think they may still have. And so you never know which company has come. There was the Phillips tour and the Angelica tour. The Phillips came the first time, the Angelica came the second time, and I hear it's gonna be the Phillips company again when it comes next year. So, when it came back, you're not necessarily gonna see all the same people. It's not necessarily gonna be exactly the same show for us. The key is to make it the same show for the audience. So I've worked with some film people that they're like, okay, what are we doing tomorrow? You're gonna do the same thing you did today, only hopefully better. Because we're all still human, we all still make mistakes. You just want tomorrow to be a little better than you did it yesterday. And then occasionally there will be smaller, petite versions on cruise ships. Most times the ones that go on cruise ships are the young people that can handle, because they wind up with a whole lot of extra things that they have to do. No, thank you. I'm not young enough for that anymore. No longer. So here's some backstage shots. This is from Nutcracker, and you can kind of see those curtains that I was talking about. So this is one of the Ballet Austin dancers sitting waiting for his piece to go on, and you can see the curtains, so you're looking through a wing to the stage, and you see most of them are facing that way. We are stage left, wing 2, in case you're trying to follow along. This here is a light pole. Do not ask me about what electricians do. I stay as far away from it as I can. Water will get you wet, electricity will make you dead. Anytime I talk about hooking up my washing machine, I never tried to hook up the dryer. I always was like, all right, Dave, send me somebody to hook up my dryer, please. Every time. This one is from Barbara of Seville, that Austin Opera did. It was a while ago. And this was just I thought a really cool, we called it, after a while we started calling it the chicken show. It was all about the chickens. I mean, there was a prop that was a chicken, there was this giant panel, there was another even larger piece that was whatever. But you can kind of see from this angle, you can see back. You can see that large light pole there. From the house, from the audience, you shouldn't see that, which is why this curtain is there. So you kind of get the idea of what they call it, masking. You're not masking your face, you're masking the things you don't want to see. All right, cruise, yay. Luckily, the gentleman from Fox gave you a little bit of thing. They talked about the crew and how they they can't do it all themselves. Every department will have a department head that tours. A lot of times they will have an assistant, possibly 2. With some of the larger, more complicated shows, and I'm pretty much gonna start talking wardrobe specifics because those are the ones that I know. Sometimes they will have 2 or 3, a person or 2 that only come for the first week. If they're doing a 3-week sit down, they're only there for the first week. So they can teach certain people exactly what they have to do, and then once they're set, they go home, which is kind of nice. Some of the departments, they're always carpenters, and yes, they do hammer nails, but they're the ones that put the stage together. Because what you see, what we call the deck, is a lot of times, that is not the actual floor of the stage when that thing is empty. A lot of times it's built up to hide all of the machinery and magic. Because half the time, I don't know how it works either. Rigging, those are the guys that hang the things in the air. You really want to be able to trust your riggers. Seriously, because there are thousands of pounds of gear. For Frozen, the set pieces for that last final moment of Act 1, they lower those pieces down about 2/3 of the way through Act 1. They put them all together, they go out, they make the magic, they come off stage, they put them back in the air, and they live up in the air. Lion King, so much stuff was flown because you have all the animals for Circle of Life. Man, half the job is getting the pieces off of the rigging, you put it on the actor, you get it off the actor, you put it back on the rigging, and somebody flies it out. A lot of times, what I'm doing, I jokingly say, what I do is throw clothing at people. And a lot of times that's a lot of what I do. Props is sort of, it's all of the hand things, all the little stuff. Chairs, tables, things that are not part of the heavy set. And then there's what I do, which is wardrobe, which is things that are worn. Hair and makeups is their own little vestibule. Sometimes people will lump them in with wardrobe. There'll be wardrobe, hair, and makeup. But what they do is specialized, and I would not try it unless they were desperate. I know some basics, and I've been able to teach some college kids some basics like, okay, this is how you accept a wig. I'm not trying to set them, I'm not trying to style them. That is beyond my wheelhouse. So, but we generally have to work very much in tandem with hair and makeup people, because a lot of times when they gotta change clothes, they're changing their hair as well. So here's some crew shots. This is the crew we had when we did Circuit of the Americas in 2021. Austin Opera was one of the first companies to attempt to do a show amidst COVID. We were all masked. The singers were masked until they went on stage. We were tested daily. We took all the safety precautions we could and still be able to give the audience a show, which is why we wind up doing it at Circuit of the Americas, open air, the open air amphitheater that is out there. And we wound up doing it to a piano only for 2 of the performances because it was raining like crazy. And the musicians are like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that to my violin. I'm not doing that to my cello. All of the stringed, they're like, and we're like, okay, well, that's nice. You can go sit in your cars. You can't start your cars up and leave though, because we're still doing a show. Anyway, this, I honestly don't even know what show that is. Is that crazy or what? It was a while ago.
Porgy and Bess, maybe?
No, I haven't done Porgy and Bess,
Okay.
but I have it. Let me see. Anyway, this one was
cool set though. Cool
it
set.
was a cool set, yeah.
Did you do something rotten?
I did do something rotten. It's my favorite musical of all time. This was Sisters Christmas Catechism. This is the entire crew. It was really, really small. It was in the Rollins Theater, which is at the Long Center, but it's a much smaller venue. So it was just me. I was props and wardrobe, because the only wardrobe there was the nun's habit, and then packing things for her to use. This is our crew room at Bass Concert Hall. And this is where we go to, have dinner between shows. Because a lot of times it's like, okay, you work until 5 and you have to be back at 6. If y'all have ever been to UT, you know you cannot get off that campus, get something to eat, get back, get parked, and get in the building within an hour. That ain't happening. So for wardrobe, the way a show normally works, and for now I'm going to talk about the Broadways because that's usually what anybody actually gives a crap about. Basically, you've got the load in, the performances, and the load out. Load in is when they roll in all of the boxes that have all of the costumes. They know everything fits. We're not trying to size things and make them fit. These are the same costumes that these same people wore in the last city. So the majority of what needs to get done is laundry. So all of the skins that they wore needs to get washed, and that's usually the very first thing that gets started is laundry. And we'll have a laundry person. There'll also be ironing and steaming if they have dress shirts, if there are dresses that got crumpled up. And I always ask, okay, how nice does this need to be? For some shows, they go, it needs to look really, really good. So you spend a little more time. Sometimes they go, it needs to look like it hasn't been in a box for a week. All right, sometimes it's just a lick and a promise. You're just keeping it from not looking worse. And then sometimes there are crafts, if there's beading, there are some shows that have a whole lot of beading, and sometimes they will have a dedicated person that just does beading. They sit there and they do beading for 8 hours. And then shoes, which is a lot of times what I get to do, which I'm very strange. I actually enjoy doing shoes. There are a lot of cities where people are like, I'm not doing shoes. The tools of that, and we'll just a little sidebar on shoes. This is an anvil, it's a cobbler's anvil. So I finally got my own because not every show travels with an anvil. Sometimes they use clamps. And this is my demonstration. I did a series of videos that I want to put on YouTube someday. But most of the time, a lot of the Broadways, the shoe will have what we call dance rubber. So it's just, it's a piece of rubber that is textured that keeps shoes from slipping. That's the biggest thing, it keeps it from slipping. And the thing is though, because you've adhered this, the corners will start to peel up. It's a fact of life. So a lot of times what I spend anywhere from 4 to, however long, is going through every pair of shoes in a show. I will check the laces to make sure that they're not about to pop. And I will check the rubber. That's what they call a safety check. And then they will also check for paint or polish. That's secondary. I want people to be safe first. Because if this catches, someone can take a total header into the audience, into the orchestra, which is a whole lot further down. So we will use an adhesive. It's a contact cement. It's called Barge. It's really stinky stuff. Put it on, let it sit. Then I'll use since this is a heel. Anyone's got their hearing aids in, warning, it's gonna be loud. Get it on, once it's dried, hammer it down. It's great when you're frustrated too. So, and like when you saw the picture from Aladdin, there's an entire table upstate in the hallway that I fill. Do a bit, let them sit, and I'll go check some more shoes. Come back, hammer them all together, put them to the side, set up another set. So yeah, and sometimes they're stinky, sometimes they're not. It's not like someone's pooped in their shoes or something. So, it's just feet. Strangely enough, and a lot of people are like, I need gloves. I'm like, these wash really well. So, Anyway, but I spent a lot of time with this. As you can tell, I enjoy it too, so more time than I should. I got some more pictures of that later. Oh yeah, next one, perfect. Speaking of painting, this was from Willy Wonka. This pair of shoes, I mean, both shoes were this scuffed, white, scuffed up. They did not, a lot of times they will come with the paints. And they're like, okay, this is number 32's dancing shoe paint. And this is, and they'll have it, you know, whatever character, whatever shoe, they already have it. This show did not have anything pre-mixed, so I had to match the color. This is what I mixed to match that one. So that was Willy Wonka. This was the setup for the High School Musical Theater Awards. It's the Heller Awards now. They were the Gatsmas, whatever. So we actually have to set up in the laundry room because every other space is being used. So this is my whole. So you can see we got a couple steamers, my machine, snacks, things, and then for that one, I'm waiting around. I spend a lot of time waiting around for someone to need me. For some shows, you're just sitting there waiting. For some shows, you are busy from an hour and a half before it starts until 20 minutes after it ends. You are on your feet, you are going nonstop. And every show is different. Every track is different. You can work the same show, 2 different tracks, it'll be 2 completely different experiences. So, once again, what do I have to be? Flexible. So, during the actual show, so that's loaded. Okay, we got everything arranged, we got it good. All right. Then, there's the actual show. And for the Broadways, we're given what's known as a track. Everybody's got a track, everybody gets a number or a name. My personal Hamilton notes have disappeared, so I borrowed my friend Kara's. These are her Hamilton notes. So these tell you what you need to do. The hour before half hour, meeting for the wardrobe room. Get the men's ensemble snake hanger from laundry, and it tells you exactly what you do in the order you do it. And you can go all the way through, and I'm gonna pass these around, I just kinda wanna go through them. So you can see that they're just index cards. She and I went through, and I was like, I am laminating these things, because they are not gonna survive 4 weeks of this. Anyway, so that was Hamilton.
Who makes those cards, Shawn?
The wardrobe head. And sometimes for Lion King, for the ensemble, it is a book. It's index cards, but it's in a book, and that book velcros to the side of the gondola. and you flip, clothespin, go do the thing, come back, flip, clothespin, do the thing. A lot of times, it's what they print off is full sheet of paper. So this was mine for Frozen, and you can see my very penciled notes, because every night, every show, you go in and they're like, okay, so number 1 is out, number 30 is on for 130. That gets confusing. You are not going to keep that in your head. So I write it down, even if it's not the people that I'm dressing, because it's very possible. So for this one, I was dressing 3, 5, and 6. It's very possible, though, that you go through here and, oh, look here, I have to do something for number 14. Well, if I didn't write down that 14 was out, I would have no idea why I can't find 14 stuff. So you always write all of the things down. So I'll start this one on this side.
So, Shawn,
Yeah.
the numbers are actors or
The
characters?
numbers, all the actors are given numbers, and the ordering is up to whoever set the show up.
Okay.
Then a lot of times the dressers are also given numbers. Because every time they go somewhere else, they're not gonna go in and find every place dresser is mentioned and put in a new name. That is a waste of their time. So for, let me see. Some of them, it'll be, you'll have the name and they'll say the principal male dresser. This one was Wicked. And it'll be the male ensemble dresser or the women's ensemble dresser or the women's principal dresser. For Tina, I was dresser 6. So it'll be track 6. Because every time they go into a new place, the same individual is doing all the same jobs. So it's sort of like a track on a train. You're going through and you're doing the same stops in the same order. So that's why all of the actors have numbers and that's their track. Especially with the ensemble, you know, they're doing maybe 8 or 9 different characters. So they have the number 14 track. I'll let you pass it that way, send it back. And then Beetlejuice, and you see they're varying thicknesses. This was Rudolph. 1 page. That's it. It was not a great experience. This is not enough information. Some of them is way more information than you could ever want. So you go through and the first day you don't know. The second day, you have some idea of what you're doing. However, we always say, don't think you ever have memorized your track. The minute you think that is the minute you're gonna miss something. So I always call it the Thursday night stupids. If you start, we always start on Tuesday, do the performance Tuesday, you don't know anything. You do the performance Wednesday, you picked up those things that you kind of were rough on. You get to Thursday and you're like, I know what I'm doing. No, you don't. The minute you stop reading your notes is the minute you're gonna forget something. So that's why I call it the Thursday night stupids. So those are Broadways. And I'm gonna pass around one here. This is, I don't even remember what that one is. Oh, that's Tina. This kind of schedule we do. So you guys can see, yeah. Some shows, all you do is show up hour before half hour. For some shows, there's what we call a work call, which means you show up from 1 to 5 and do 4 hours of work, go away from dinner, come back, do the show. For some shows, they only do that once a week. Okay. For some shows, that is every single day. Whether you have 2 shows or 1 show, it doesn't matter. You're still showing up 5 hours before that first performance. That sucks. Anyway, okay, so during the show, most of what you guys are seeing are dressing tracks. There are 2 other jobs that are equally or more important in my estimation. One is laundry. 9 times out of 10, there is a person whose job is laundry the entire week. During the show, they are doing laundry. Before the show, they are doing laundry. At the end of the show, they are collecting it and sorting it and getting it ready for tomorrow. So nobody really appreciates them. Trust me, a lot of people don't. But they are your backbone. Because if they screw up, you are in so much trouble. Because if they have not done something, if they haven't gotten the laundry together correctly, then you're running around trying to fix that instead of doing the job you're supposed to do. So we're always very, very thankful if we have a really good laundry person. And occasionally, there is someone that is there to do stitching through the entire show. And sometimes they're doing prep for a new person coming in. Say, okay, well, this guy's gonna be leaving, we got a new person coming in, they're doing alterations. But they're also there when you go to set something an hour before and you're like, oh, oops, I did not see this. There's a really big hole in the crotch of these pants. Joe, fix this. Not that Joe. one of the gentlemen that I work with is also named Joe, and he is a master tailor. And he'll come in and he'll do stitching, and I'm always thankful. I'm like, Joe, fix it. So for dressing, there's what we call gondola row. In that video you saw from Fox, you saw all those boxes where all the hanging things were. Those are gondolas. And a lot of times they will call it gondola village, gondola row, whatever word. That's the gondolas. That's sort of the performer's base. That's where they can come back to. They have their chair, they can relax, play on their iPad, they know their show. We do not sit on their chairs. I will tell you a lot of times that diagram we showed where the stage and the wings, we are behind so far back. So no, we don't see diddly squat. When they're like, oh, you see so much. No, I don't see anything. And half the time I can't hear anything either. Occasionally, if you're waiting for a cue, you will be in the wing with your stuff and you're like, oh, well, I get to see this part. And it's kind of exciting. You get to know that one little section. The other thing is what we call quick changes. Quick changes are changes that happen not at their chair. This, I really like. This was my setup for Pretty Woman because Happy Guy didn't have a chair. He was one of the principals. So all of his stuff pretty much lived in his dressing room. Yeah, but he had to change clothes, right? Yeah, so they taped out a space for his things. Oh, sorry, Happy Man. And I had spaces to put baskets of presets. So in my list, in my track, it said you need one basket with this pair of pants and this pair of shoes and this jacket, and you need another preset basket with this hat and this jacket, whatever. And then I've got discard basket. So for this change that is already set up, I have all the things he's gonna put on sitting there, waiting for him, or for me to hand to him, and he has a basket, so he will discard stuff himself. Most times on the Broadways, you're not dressing people like you actually have to help them into their show. Sometimes you do, sometimes you have things ready that they can just slip right in and go. It all depends on how much time they have, and they let you know. They'll be like, oh yeah, this is a 30-second change, we got no time. Or they'll go, okay, I know this is a quick change, we have all day, don't worry about it. And you're like, okay, so it's just a keep moving, don't dawdle. But you never know that until after the first performance. So the confusion some of you get reading these sheets that I passed around, yeah, that's the same confusion we feel the first night. Every show, the first night, you're going, well, this is nice, but I have no idea what the pace of this show is like. And I have had shows where they go, yeah, you don't have time to read your notes. And I'm like, well, that's nice. And for one show, I went to Academy and bought one of these. This is one of those things that football players wear for their plays. So by the time we got to the end of Frozen, I was like, okay, I'm not actually needing to read my track. I know each cue, but every once in a while I get a little flustered about, okay, what's next? Have I forgotten something? So I wrote myself a cheat sheet. It's like, okay, number 5's library needs to go to stage. Then I need to take number 3's water to stage right. And so that tells me, okay, so I'd get down and be like, okay, wait a minute. Don't I need to be somewhere? No, I'm waiting for number 6 to come and get his coat. It's a little trigger to remember. And I've had to write an entire act on here because I did not have time to read my notes.
Pass those sheets
Yeah. So, just a couple of backstage shots. This was during, I don't even remember what show this was, but he had to get into this whole backpack and extra things. This was during an opera. Operas require a little more care, babying, whatever.
Prima donnas.
No, just he was nervous and okay, so at the end of the act I'd be like, don't you go off that side of the stage or I will come and hunt you down. Because the backpack, you see how tall this is? Y'all know how tall I am. Obviously he's a good 6 inches taller than me. That stretched another foot above him. He could not go through a doorway with this thing. And he would try. He was a tenor. He was such a tenor.
We're proud of ourselves.
That is an opera thing, is that tenors are very special creatures. And in the dog world, we call them a golden retriever. Anyway, but these are chorus members. I don't even remember what opera it was, but I was like, this is hilarious, because they're all waiting in line to get their wigs taken off. Again, opera's a little different, because they get one wig, top of show, end of show, wig come off. That's it. They don't do quick wig changes in operas. Opera singers don't work that way. All right. Quick change. This is what a quick change can be. This is from The King and I and the Tonys many years ago. We're gonna fast forward a lot because there's a whole lot of the first song.
Performing the Soaring score by Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein. Here are Tony nominees Kelly O'Hara, Ken Watanabe.
Yeah. Yeah, we can let it go from there. Perfect. Okay. Boom.
Yeah, that did not take long.
30 seconds. Oh, that is a 30-second quick change. And did you notice how many black bodies surrounded her? There was at least 3, and she didn't have a wig change. That's the same hair she had. So, and yes, I have been part of quick changes that were choreographed like that. The original Phantom tour that went through. The first time I worked it, I was part of the Meg quick change. And we practiced that 3 or 4 times during load-in. That is part of what load-in is for a lot of people, is that you're practicing quick changes if you need to. If there is some weird garment thing that is very unusual, you get a chance to practice that if they think you need it. If it is lay out these pants and jacket, hand them the pants and jacket, no, you're not gonna practice that. As an experienced wardrobe person, you should be able to hand them a pair of pants and put a jacket on them. If you can't, you shouldn't be doing this. But sometimes you need that kind of specialty. So these are just some more backstage shots. This is, I think all three of these are from Nutcracker. So you see, this is one of the mice, which are the youngest little girls. They go out and there's a person that is specifically there to get them to go on stage at the right time. I don't deal with the children. I can't control my mouth. They put me on an entirely different floor from the children. I can be polite on the side of the stage and not swear, but then I go back to my floor where my boys are being stupid. I'm like, no, come on, guys. I have actually used this phrase, and in all seriousness, less talking, more stripping. The young man, I had 4 guys that all had to get into the same costume that had 20 some odd hooks, 15 snaps, and half a dozen buttons. 4 guys each. And one of them is standing there, half out of the unitard from Act 1 going, bah, 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 bah. And I'm like, no, no, out, you need to be halfway in your clothes by now. So things you would think would only be on a t-shirt, yeah, that came out my mouth. I was like, come on. For ballet, I'm the mean dresser. There are 3 of us that deal with chorus men, company men, sorry. Linda is primarily our laundry person. She's been there longer. She trained me. And I tell the guys, don't piss off Linda. We love her. She takes good care of us. If you piss her off, I am coming after you. She was here before you. She will probably be here after you move on. Don't even try it. And then the other dresser is Alexi. He's the head, his assistant. She's like, I don't want to be the mean one. I'm like, okay, fine, I will do it. They're like, all right, guys, pull your pants up where they are supposed to be. If you hang them too low, they will split, and it is your rear that will be exposed, not mine. So pull them up like your Urkel. Yeah. See, y'all think I am a nice person? No, this is the real me. And so this is also Nutcracker, so you can see the wing and the light towers, and you see a basket here. That basket is my preset basket for doing the, what's her name? The fancy, no, Nutcracker. Nutcracker, come on,
Our brains are old.
My brain doesn't start nutcrackering until mid-November. Anyway, but she goes from the party dress into her nightgown so she can go play in the Winter Wonderland, whatever. Then this one I got not for the Arabian costume, but you can see 2 stagehands that are waiting for Mother Ginger. Basically, they are there, and you can see the beginning of the ladder because halfway through Act 2, our guest Mother Ginger shows up. They get him or her up into it, dress him, take care of him, but they're just waiting for their cue.
Do the costumes change from year to year with Nutcracker?
Nope.
They're always the same?
They did a brand new set of costumes not many years before I started working with Ballet Austin. And it's been the same set ever since, just because that is something you can't afford. That is a lot of money. And they invested a lot of money in that set.
But,
Yeah,
but the dancers are not always the same people. So
correct.
They have to find someone with the same measurements.
Not exactly. The one thing that is really nice, and Alexi is really good at this, is everything is adjustable. Everything is adjustable. With women, if they're laced into the bodice, man, the lacing can be this far apart. It can be this far apart. Do you know how many size differences that is? That's a lot. The length of torso is one of the things that really can't. If dresses need to be, if a dancer is longer of leg, well, the hems of those, there are buttons underneath that they can tuck those up. The guys, the cuff of their pants gets snapped up. The hems of their jackets, the little sleeve part that you see, that's not an entire shirt under there. That is just a cuff. That cuff gets snapped up. It's either short, medium, or long. And a lot of what I do for ballet during Nutcracker especially is adjust those. So I will spend possibly an entire half hour just adjusting sleeve lengths. So I unsnap this one to long, and this one, and hem length, and go and do that for 2 or 3 others. Sometimes I hate snaps. So this was from this one and this one this is opera now. These two are from Pearl Divers, which was fascinating. And you see, even opera performers can get silly. It was Red Nose Day, and one of our dressers gave all of the principals the red noses, and he came out, he was like, Shawn, and smile. I was like, okay, I gotta get a picture of this. Full costume, his own hair, and the red nose. These were our dancers that did appropriate dances to the piece. They were a local dance company. This was from Of Mice and Men. Yes, they made an opera of that. It was painful to listen to. The score was beautiful. Singing in English doesn't work. But I considered Squeaker to be the actual star of the show. Squeaker was the puppy. She was all precious.
Is it a real puppy or a mechanical puppy?
For the majority of it, it was a real puppy until the character wrenches, and then that was a prop puppy. She wound up having, the prop mistress wound up having to make 3 different prop puppies because he grew and grew. And they're like, okay, this prop puppy does not look like the actual puppy that is now this big. As you can see, there's silliness happens. These are a couple of my ballet boys. This was our Willy Wonka. And this, I just had to get a picture. This is Ed. He was the wicked stepsister queen for Sleeping Beauty. I was so mad. I'm like, it's not fair, Ed, that you are more beautiful than me. That's just not fair.
Is Willy Wonka that tall?
That particular Willy Wonka was. I had 3 different Willy Wonkas that week because a new guy was going to be coming in, and they had a swing that had to come in the middle of the week. 2 of them were my same height. And then one was literally this tall. I was like, okay. So, this is me and I don't generally do a lot of the selfie with the actor. I don't know how I have this many. But this was Genie from when Aladdin got shut down in 2020. I was like, up for it. This is my Rat King. He is a large part of what I deal with during Nutcracker. Is all the bits and pieces of him. And then this was from Tootsie. And that dress, I swear that dress was a character unto itself. I called it Fellini. Because it was for the Fellini scene. But that dress was like its own, it was like a person. It was so big. Crazy guys, this was from another opera. And those guys were really that crazy. For opera, sometimes you do bring them coffee, you know, do you need anything, have water. A lot of times I'm carrying water for my performer. And yeah, I will have this on my hip and it'll be their water bottle, not mine. For those guys, I was making coffee. And I said, if you want it any stronger, I'm going to make you rocket fuel. And they went, oh, that'd be great, do it, do it. So I got some espresso roast, and I made them rocket fuel. And they went, oh my goodness, I think you got it too strong. These were guys from Gentleman's Guide for Love and Murder. The other dressers were all doing it, and my guys looked at me expectantly, and I was like, okay, yeah.
That's it.
Is that the last one? Yay. So.
That's our presentation.
Any question?
How many times have you had dress malfunctions on stage?
You generally don't, because most garments are constructed so well that even if there is I put my heel in the hem of the pants, you can't tell. A lot of times things come off and you're like, ooh, I need to take that hook and fix it. That is the one thing that I do is, okay, that hook's come loose. I can do that myself. I'm not gonna send that down for Rita to do or for Joe to do. I'm gonna boom, 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 there, and now they can do it. If someone has a split in the leg, for Frozen, one of the guys did. They had a split in the leg, and that piece, as soon as he was done wearing it, went downstairs, got repaired, came back up in time for the end of intermission. And went right back on stage.
That's
There's
awesome.
two.
Everybody